meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners meeting on Monday, March 28th, 2020. I will take a moment to announce that we had an executive session to speak about legal matters before the meeting. And I would like to take a moment of silence for George Sidner, and I'd like Sean Farhi, would you like to speak to this before we
Thank
take
you.
a moment?
I appreciate that, Commissioner Moroni. So we lost, I believe, one of the finest people that I've ever come to meet, and his name was George Sidner. I'll give you a quick little background. George was the first African-American policeman in Radnor, the first detective in Radnor. When he retired, he became a crossing guard, and he's what I believe is the definition of serving the community. He was just not only a terrific guy, but a man of community. And Garrett Hill and the Township, we have lost something special in losing George. George was not only this terrific guy, he was also an athlete, a Hall of Fame, not a Hall of Fame, he is a Hall of Fame member right outside in those halls, but he was also a world record holder as well. Here we have, today we have one of George's son, Reverend Manuel Howard, right there. And I'm going to say that Manuel, we may know him as Bumper if we have some of the people here in Garrett Hill. He's followed in his footsteps. He is not a policeman, but he does serve the police office. He is a chaplain, and that is important. He's a man of faith, and he, like his father, gives back to the community. So with that being said, if we could all bow our heads and take this moment to reflect on George. And if you didn't know him, well, it's unfortunate. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I'd like to move now to recognition of Roberta Winters for her service to the community, including 30 years as a Radnor Township School District Educator and many years with the League of Women Voters, including 8 as president. We are joined today by County Councilwoman Elaine Schaefer, if you'd like to come forward.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioners. I'm so pleased to be here. Thank you for letting me go first. I am here on behalf of all of County Council, and I am so honored to be here for this celebration. But I just want to say that I am also personally so honored to be recognizing Dr. Winters in this capacity because I have known her. She has been an inspiration to me for over 20 years, both as an educator and as a leader in our community. And she is the type of leader, the inspiring type of leader who is so effective and so influential just because of the amount of work, her intelligence, her focus, and her ability to get everybody rowing in the same direction. And her leadership is so pervasive, she doesn't even need to be there to be a leader. I can tell you from personal experience, I have been in rooms where decisions are being discussed, and the words have come out, well, we can't take that path because Roberta Winters will oppose it. So she changes the directions even without being there because she is so inspiring and effective. With that, I would like to go ahead and read the resolution that the county has all signed. Whereas Delaware County is fortunate to have many citizens who have generously contributed their time, energy, and resources to enhance our community, and whereas Roberta Winters has dedicated 3 decades to educating the youth of our community, advocating for fellow teachers and students, and championing them to let their voices be heard. And whereas for the past 8 years, Roberta Winters has served as president of the League of Women Voters for Radnor Township, fostering active participation in civic and community engagement. And whereas in 2021, Ms. Winters was awarded the Ann Peters Volunteer Award for her work with the Radnor Educational Foundation. And whereas through her passion and dedication, Ms. Winters serves as an inspiration to the community to help improve the quality of life for Delaware County residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the County of Delaware, this County Council of Delaware County, hereby commend and congratulate Roberta Winters for her leadership and service to the community and her commitment to making Delaware County an excellent place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you, Roberta. One more proclamation to be had here before Dr. Winters speaks.
I object. I object to this proclamation that's coming up. Lisa, if you want to go first, then I would like to make a response afterwards. But I
Sean,
fully object to this
If you're going to make a
proclamation.
response, please do it now.
Okay. So I believe that this proclamation is overtly political. Roberta stepped down months ago in June. Why wasn't this voted on at a prior meeting and the proclamation given at a subsequent meeting? Instead, on March 12th, the Radnor League of Women Voters posted on their Facebook page that Roberta was going to be honored. March 12th is also the same date as the Delaware County Democratic Party endorsement meeting. I just find that too coincidental after months of her stepping down. This leads me to my next point. What is the policy about giving a proclamation? It seems extremely arbitrary. Roberta worked for the school board for 30 years, not the township. The proclamation should be a foundation and a function of the school district. What's the criteria of honoring someone, of a one-off civic organization? Especially when you're on the board and part of the League of Women Voters and you give an award, it's a conflict of interest. Another reason why I feel that this is overtly political is that it was poorly written. For instance, the last paragraph should read, is or are grateful, not if grateful. It was rushed, and out of all the people you're honoring, shouldn't you have proofread a proclamation before giving it, putting it on the agenda, especially to an educator? The other political concern is that the League of Women Voters runs commissioners and state reps forums, and we all know the issues regarding canceling last year's forums. Democrats and independents were the ones that wanted to have the forum, and the Republicans didn't, and that, again, would divide the electorate. Kathy Gartland was accused of pulling a political stunt, similar to this in my mind, and she was rightfully or wrongfully, but probably rightfully, called out. Now, I personally don't believe that Roberta Winters deserves this proclamation, nor do many of the residents who have not only contacted me, but alerted me to the March 13th post. We should not be honoring someone who goes around and preaches transparency and has business cards that she puts in the mailbox or on people's doors like this, about Garrett Hill, about the house that's too tall, or about outdoor dining. On this card, there is no professional organization, there is no name, there is no address, there is nothing. No phone number, website. This is a scare tactic. And it was put in someone's mailbox at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning. That is not transparent. Roberta also did the same thing with the Too Tall house, handing out similar cards, wanting me to hand out similar cards, and instead before the settlement. But she spoke against the settlement as the League of Women Voters. But on the card, it said that it was a Garrett Hill coalition. She's also gone around the neighborhood taking pictures of red Solo cups on the ground and blaming local Ward 7 businesses. Restaurants come and go, as she said. So do commissioners. I've heard it for years about transparency, and you failed to keep the one covenant that you hold so dear. Now, regarding the actual proclamation, whereas number 1 should be a function of the school board, whereas number 2 should be a function of the school board, whereas number 3 should be a function of the school board. Why are the first 3 whereas all related to the school board where she taught? The school board should be doing this. This is why I believe that this is overtly political.
Thank you for your comments,
Now, I'm almost
Commissioner.
done. Number 5, she certainly left Garrett Hill much worse than she found it. I'll end with this. It's overtly political. Many of my Ward 7 friends and neighbors that live in the ward are against it. And I just hope that sunshine wasn't violated, although I don't think it was, but I don't know how everyone seems to know that this was taking place. So I'm going to end with this. This is not my Democratic Party. I don't stand for it. I want nothing to do with this, the Democratic Party here in Radnor, or this proclamation, or the process and the people who made this come about. Thank you. And I'll be stepping off.
I would like to, before I introduce Commissioner Borowski, Roberta, I want to apologize. We have allowed a commissioner to speak, and it is his right to do. He does not hold the thoughts and minds of other commissioners. I am thrilled that you are getting recognition from both the county and the township. And Commissioner Borowski, if you would like to lead in. And Roberta, thank you for your service.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Mulrooney. So I believe that, to respond to some of what was said, that we don't honor our residents enough. We really have gotten away from it over the past several years. I think that we have many remarkable and incredible people, and we used to do this a lot. And I don't think that we do it enough. And I am glad when the league came to me and asked if I would be willing to move this forward, because I am a league member myself. It's not political, as Commissioner Farhi would have stated. I've been a league member for, I don't know, like 10 years. So when the league came to me, and I tend to listen to the league. The league is, they do a lot of good work in this township. They do a lot when it comes to not only political, or not political issues, but to allow people to participate in the political process, for people to be aware of the political process, but also just overall good governance. I mean, I've sat in here when the league has sponsored things for how to recycle, and issues around, overpayment for recycling and what's happening with things like that, and other issues that our community and our township need to be aware of and need to participate in, and bringing light to those things. So that is what the league does, and I am glad to be here to honor Dr. Winters. So personally, I've known Dr. Winters for a really long time, since my boys were at Ithan, and we first bonded because Dr. Winters actually taught my brother. So I don't mean to age you, but my brother is now 50. And so that is how long Dr. Winters has been around. So she did teach my brother, but she has also taught me a lot about what I know when it comes to good governance and working hard on behalf of a community. And I think that is what we are here to honor. And that is what proclamations by the township should honor. And I thank Councilwoman Schaefer for being here tonight and recognizing that on behalf of the county as well. And I think that it is something that the county has been doing a lot of, and I think that's something our township needs to do more of. So with that, Dr. Winters, I am very proud to read a proclamation, which is similar to the one from the county, but whereas Roberta L. Winters has been a Radnor resident for more than 30 years and brought respect, honor, integrity, and awareness through her community advocacy work and as a champion for the students of Radnor Township School District. And whereas throughout her 3 decades as a Radnor educator, Roberta Winters has always advocated for her students and her fellow teachers. Whereas she brought her knowledge of the needs of students and teachers to her volunteer work and with the Radnor Educational Foundation, and for her and for her efforts was recognized with the Ann Peters Volunteer Award in 2021. And whereas, as president of the League of Women Voters of Radnor Township for 8 years, and as an active member for even longer, she brought people and groups together to raise awareness and foster active participation in civic and community affairs. And whereas Roberta Winters continues to lead and inspire others in the service of our community, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Radnor Township Board of Commissioners is grateful for her leadership and joins with the entire Radnor community in thanking her for her invaluable contributions and for recognizing her remarkable legacy, which will continue to guide and inspire those who advocate for good process in government by giving voice to all. So proclaimed this 28th day of March, 2022. Dr. Winters, thank you.
Thank you. It is indeed an honor to be recognized this evening by the Board of Commissioners and also by the Delaware County Council. For the League of Women Voters, it's actually better than an Oscar. I only hope my acceptance speech doesn't go more than 5 minutes. And I'd also like to begin the same way by thanking all those who have supported me, particularly my family and friends, for making this all possible. In accepting this recognition, it is not only my efforts that have brought us here this evening. I stand, out of necessity, because of my stature, on the shoulders of those who have come before me. They have fought for hundreds of years to help make democracy work. Advocating for the right to vote and freely exercising this right continue to be a struggle. Positions of the League, from freedom of speech to equal rights, were developed through study and consensus, and again, we see that freedom of speech honored this evening. Such critical issues now are framed with an increasing light on diversity and equity that continue to be on the forefront of our daily lives. As many of you know, all politics is local. Women, some of you who are here this evening, have been elected and appointed to serve at the local, county, state, and national level. They, indeed, like you, are the beneficiaries of the hard work done by past generations of women who have paid it forward. As a League leader, my accomplishments are a tribute to those like the Windsor Sisters of Radnor, who our library room is named after, who fought for suffrage, and those ladies who met for more than 100 years ago in this place to register women in our town the first time they were able to vote in 1920. The name Women in our title is a recognition of such efforts. League members like Sammy Ruth Fletcher brought representatives from the United Nations to Radnor for a weekend in the 1950s to increase global awareness and understanding. Others here this evening have initiated recycling, forged the path for rails to trails, advocated for open space, supported historic preservation, and fought for affordable housing. Members of the League have been the first of their gender to serve on Radnor committees, many in multiple roles, from land use planning to park and rec boards. Many continue to make a difference, monitoring meetings, promoting transparency, instigating new regulations, and working in coalition to raise awareness of key issues. We even championed the new Delaware County Board of Health. From our student members, we are inspired and motivated to learn and address other challenges, such as those created by climate change and social media. You see others of our members manning our polls each of the 2 elections that we hold each year. While I, like the League, can sometimes feel like 100 years old, our mission and passion to address voting rights and free, fair, accessible elections are more important today than ever before. With a touch of your cell phone, you can register to vote, apply for a mail-in ballot, or get nonpartisan information, all on our website, Vote 411. Join the League. We really are open to all, with free membership to students through graduate school. LWVRadnor.org is the place to go. We cannot afford to help to let our democracy become a spectator sport. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know there are many people here today for the Kratom public hearing and vote on the ordinance. We are going to do we're going to do our consent agenda first. So there is public participation now. I would ask you if you're speaking to Kratom, perhaps you would wait until the ordinance. It's just one agenda item down beyond the consent agenda. That being said, if there's any public comment, please feel free to come forward.
Thank you. My name is John Ricciuti. I am a resident of 130 Sproul Road, Villanova, Ward 3. I was prompted to speak tonight about what I noticed was a discussion about safe injection sites. And as a documentary filmmaker, my partner and I produced a documentary film titled Kensington in Crisis, which was shown here previously, and we are going to show it again on May 5th in the same building. One of the things that I think that, before I tell you the pros and cons, and I'll be as quickly as possible, about safe injection sites is that Radnor is not a community that warrants a safe injection site or needs a safe injection site. A safe injection site is a facility for a community that is rabid with active addicts. Kensington Avenue is rabid with active addicts. And what it does is it cleans up the appearance of the community, so that little children that are walking down the street aren't stepping over needles or picking them up and using them as like swords as little kids do, at which my partner and I have witnessed. At the same time, children aren't stepping over bodies, alive or dead, which we've witnessed. Radnor is not that type of community. So when you unfortunately have that, you do need that type of facility. So let me tell you what the cons are of having that. It's going to be a strain on your police force because you're going to need 24/7 surveillance of a facility, because people that get high don't get high between 9 and 5. Whenever the load wears off, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're going to be there. You're going to have professional staff to see that someone who overdoses can be taken care of immediately. I carry Narcan. I don't leave home without it. The other thing you're going to have to consider is if I'm dealing drugs, I'm going to put myself across the street because it is an illegal substance. Heroin, fentanyl are illegal. And as part of the film we made, we spoke to drug dealers, former ones, and they said that now's the time to get back in business, because once you open up a safe injection site, you're going to be selling to those people right across the street, and your policemen are going to be there. The other thing, and we witnessed this as well, we saw pregnant women inject themselves. So now you have a safe injection site. A pregnant woman with a child will go into that safe injection site and shoot up. Or the guy that drives up and goes in there, shoots up and gets back in his car. Now he's high. The other thing is you're going to do is you're going to have, I don't have my phone here, but you're going to have somebody across the street with a camera at a safe injection site in a community like ours, and filming. Oh wait, there goes John Ricciuti. He's going in a safe injection site. There goes my doctor. There goes my teacher. Radnor has not reached that level, fortunately. Kensington is a horrible experience. We have 2 EMT vehicles in this community, and I think Narberth Ambulance has 2. If you walk the streets, and I'll be happy to take anyone to Kensington Avenue and drive you around all the streets that I know better than Radnor, and see the EMT vehicles that go up and down the street. You only got two people here, and you have a police force that's going to be strained, and it's going to be a financial burden on your community. I
You
the
got
one-
another minute.
Okay. No, I'm good.
You're good.
That's all I have to say about safe injection sites. And seriously look at those issues. And anyone that knows me, I can be reached at jricciuti@comcast.net. If you have any further questions you want to ask me or my partner about it, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there any other public participation? Hi.
Bob Doig, 123 Poplar Avenue, Wayne. So I see on your agenda you have responsible contract set out. And I'd like to just take a moment to talk to you about it. This ordinance has been on at the county level for well over a dozen years. In fact, it's back up this week for amendment to strengthen its clauses. And as I understand, the county in turn is going to further put the RCO into Delcora, Solid Waste Authority, Independent, the Industrial Development Authority. It is presently in Upper Darby, Traynor Borough, Sharon Hill, and a number of other townships and boroughs. And I really don't understand why we don't have it here. It had been raised several years ago when the municipal building came up. What does it do for you? Well, it'll provide you, provide the township, with more information about contractors, subcontractors. It'll provide you with more detailed information that you don't get with prevailing wage standards, requirements. For example, you should know, or you will know, through the use of responsible contractor certificates that are set forth in the ordinance, whether contractors, all contractors, GCs, subs alike, have been debarred or suspended, whether their licenses have been removed in any way, whether they have been debarred in federal venues, in New Jersey, whether they have been in bankruptcy, some type of insolvency, whether they have defaulted on projects. These are all really relevant issues as you contemplate further public work. We want to know, I suggest, or Radnor should know, whether contractors violated wage, tax, environmental, and licensing laws. Basic fundamental information like whether they have OSHA violations, standard OSHA violations. You want to know whether a contractor has workers on its site, I suggest, who have 30 hours, basic 30 hours of OSHA training. To date, you don't know that. What you know about in our present form is general contractors, but you don't go down the chain in our structure as we have and find out more information with subcontractors. The RCO provides you with that information. It will ensure that every contractor provides a certificate of responsibility. And in that certificate, these items that I've talked about will all be submitted, which are very highly relevant in the bid process. For example, Haverford Township has a significant problem. It has a recently constructed municipal building that has brick that has come off, actually fallen off the building from a construction approximately 3 to 4 years ago. They were already $150,000 in damages for delayed and defective work. Now they're facing approximately $1 million of repair work, and they can't get a solvent quality contractor to bid it because nobody wants to get involved in that litigation. Now, those problems, I suggest, would have been resolved had we had RCO in place. Would have provided more detailed information about that specific bricklaying subcontractor. The other basic thing that RCO applies or provides is apprenticeship training. You want the most highly skilled, quality apprentices, journeymen, workers on our sites. And we don't have that. We don't have a way to ensure that we have workers who have been in 3 to 5 years of specific training on our public project here in Radnor. And that's created problems. We also have, and avoid with that kind of training, safety violations. Like Newtown was sued a few years back when 2 workers died because they went into a hole just about as basic as could be without putting oxygen levels down. A month ago in Villanova, 2 workers went down in a trench that was 10 feet deep without shoring and nearly died and are severely injured. Now, these are the problems, the injuries that we don't certainly want to have in Radnor on our public projects. But if we had RCO in place, all of that would have been ferreted out. You would have looked at OSHA violations, and you would have found apprenticeship, trade, highly skilled workers. I would urge you to adopt it.
Mic on. Any other public comment at this time? I'm going to move to the consent agenda, and I will ask if there is any public comment specifically on this consent agenda. I'm not seeing anyone. Is there any item that a commissioner would like to remove from the consent agenda? I am not seeing any. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. It passed unanimously. Okay, so we are moving to the first big item on the agenda. Ordinance 2022-03. This is for adoption, prohibiting the sale and distribution of Kratom and Delta 8 within 1,000 feet of a school, playground, or daycare. I would now like to open it up for public comment on this issue.
Commissioner Mulroney, just a little bit of background on this.
Sure, John, thank you.
Before public comment. This ordinance has been advertised in the Delco Times for a hearing tonight. It's fairly straightforward. It limits the sale of the 2 products, Kratom and Delta 8, within 1,000 feet of any school, playground, or daycare facility. And then secondly, it prohibits the sale to anyone under the age of 21. There's some violations and penalties in the ordinance, and it was in front of the board 2 weeks ago. The Board of Health has done did a review of it. I know there was a community group that discussed this topic, but it's before the board tonight for consideration and possible adoption.
Thank you, Solicitor. Now I would hear from public.
Good evening again. Pat Campbell on behalf of the owners and operators of the Kratom store, which is essentially the focus of this ordinance. I wanted to advise you today that, I wanted to recognize today that we've made several efforts to try to reach out to this board and work this out. We've been rebuffed at every occasion. We had no choice but to file a lawsuit, and we have. And notwithstanding that fact, I come here today on behalf of my clients, willing, again, to put the lawsuit on hold and try to resolve the issues. But if nobody's going to talk to us, we have no choice. So it's up to you.
Stop.
Sounded like
Can
a
we,
threat.
I'd like to leave the comments in the audience and from the dais and focus on the comments from the speaker. Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, Commissioner. I will adhere to that today. Some of you may know the real estate developer Brian O'Neill.
Can you add your name and for the record?
Karen Korfman. Yep. among other huge ventures that he's been involved in and that have benefited so many people in our township as well as all across the main line. He developed and is the owner of Recovery Centers of America, where I've worked. We have another nurse here who also works there. We've been here talking about this issue. On the one hand, on the behalf of the township, but also in concert with his opinions. So when he got wind of all of this, he decided, I need to write to the board. He did that today. And I'd like to read the letter. Dear Radnor Township Board of Commissioners, as the chairman and CEO of Recovery Centers of America, I'm writing today to let you know how strongly against CBD Kratom, currently located at Wayne, that I am. This business is misrepresenting who they are in the community. Starbucks was always a place where teens and families could safely hang out in their community. CBD Kratom is the complete opposite of that. This location is just 1,000 feet from 3 middle schools. The visibility and accessibility of these substances to children, teens, college-age students, and even the general public as a whole can have serious consequences, such as the normalizing of using substances, including marijuana. Kratom is extremely dangerous and simply a gateway drug and will undoubtedly cause harm to the great community of Wayne and its residents. The FDA has even warned consumers not to use Kratom due to its effects on the brain and the risk of addiction, abuse, and dependence. I urge you not to allow this business to operate in Wayne. Think about the message that it's sending. It is up to us to do better for our children, grandchildren, and the community. Sincerely, Brian O'Neill, CEO and Chairman, Recovery Centers of America. Let me add that if we don't do that, if we don't consider our children, grandchildren, and the community and the people we are going to be leaving our community to going forward, and we put pot leaves and Kratom in their faces every single day instead of pie-in-the-sky pizza and family-owned and run Wayne Sporting Goods, which we've lost, they will continue funding facilities like RCA. We want Brian to do well in all his ventures, but not if it means my money because of my kids.
Hi, Clark Engel, Wayne, Pennsylvania. I just want to thank the board for acting so swiftly in proposing this legislation. I hope you pass it tonight. And I'd like to say that, you know, businesses, well, there might be some good medicinal use of Kratom, but it doesn't need to be sold in your face on Main Street. I think the people that need Kratom for pain relief or to wean themselves on opioids, they can find it online. It doesn't need to be sold in a store where our kids walk by and sold in caramel candies and seltzers. One of their competitors is in the King of Prussia Mall and sells it in Rice Krispie treats. It's called Deep Six. That's the name of the store. So what's to stop them from copycatting them? And in terms of a lawsuit, which lawsuit do you want to fight? Do you want to fight Kratom in court, or do you want to fight the family of the next Caleb Sturgis, from Westchester, who died of a Kratom overdose?
Hi, I'm Julia Bonnenberger, 218 South Aberdeen Avenue. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I happened to catch the last meeting you had with the Kratom lawyer citing a Johns Hopkins study. And it caught my ear because I went to Hopkins. I'm a medical writer from Hopkins, undergrad, master's. I'm literally certified in medical publications. I don't know many things. I literally am a professional expert on medical publications. So I looked at what he was citing, because I was really shocked to hear. And what he was citing was a user survey, a marketing survey. Oh, by the way, I work for GlaxoSmithKline, major pharmaceutical. I know this business. I know the dirty work. I know the clean work. This is not clean. And when you cite a marketing study, and in it, it is disclosed that the authors are paid by the Kratom industry right there, and it's, again, a marketing study. It's not a medical study. And I'll point out that the data that he's citing is from a user survey. So when he says, oh, there's proof that it might be helpful, it's from the users. Not the dead users, the live users who actually answered the survey. So, and that was the best gem he had to come in here and hand to you and say, we're legit, is shocking. I'll also say this, I hate lawsuits. I hate using our tax dollars to go to lawsuits. It's a horrible thing. Regarding this one, please bring this lawsuit. You picked the wrong small town. We live here. Thank you.
Are there any other comments on this issue?
I'm Courtney Smith. I am an RN BSN, and I am nurse manager at Recovery Centers of America. And I also am a specialist in pain and palliative care. I want to remind this community that access to drug detox, which Kratom requires strongly, is very limited for children, if non-existent. Okay, so that's a big deal. Two, there's a lack of informed consent going on, and also dishonesty in the marketing tactic. Putting CBD with Kratom is really saying, here's pot and heroin. They're two very different drugs. Neither do I condone, but one is one kills. One is a horrific detox process and is very dangerous. I can't say enough about the lack of education, but I have mostly an issue with the lack of informed consent. And I want to commend this community in Radnor for not standing for it, for being as educated as you all are, and for making a difference. Because as one of the first states and towns making a difference in the United States of America on this issue, this will stand in history. So I encourage all of you to continue this fight, and whatever you need for education of what that looks like on the other end. I do not want this for any of you. I don't want an unintentional overdose. I don't want an unintentional, invitation to awakening your opiate receptors. And that will happen once Kratom is in the body. If used under the guidance, that's not the discussion. There's, like people said, there may be an appropriate spot for it. Under the guidance of medical professionals, not just here you come, everybody. This is harmless, this is okay, and I don't want that internalized in any of your minds or our children. I'm here to help in whatever way I can and to support this community, and I thank you guys for standing up strong and not allowing this in your town. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Heather Gill, Ivan Avenue. I just wanted to remind the board that the process that started was just not a community-involved process, and it was one that a fast one was tried to be put forth before the community. I just wanted to note one article that was published by the owners in 2020 that stated the following: if a town doesn't necessarily want us there, we are not in the business of fighting to be there. This is a direct article and quote from the owner. So I question why their attorney tonight would come and put forth either ban this resolution, table it, or we're going to sue you. That doesn't sound like community involvement. If they would have done and submitted the appropriate permitting early on and engaged the community, this might have been a different story. But instead, they did not submit the permits, they did not submit the plans, they did not respond to the township, and now I think they have the audacity to come up before the board and say, either change your mind or we're gonna sue you. That's not what the owner said. If a town necessarily doesn't want us there, we are not in the business of fighting to be there. So I question, why are they suing the township or even threatening to do so? I hope you stand your ground. I hope you do what's best for the community and for our children. And I appreciate the time that you've taken to listen to the community. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Kate Hart. I just want to echo what Heather said. I want to really thank everybody. I think it was, well, actually, I can look on here and see. It was February 15th that the Kratom store, I believe, opened unexpectedly on a Thursday morning. And Jake, you know, I reached out to you and I was like in shock. I was like, what is this 8-foot tall marijuana leaf? What is this giant sign? This didn't get approved. I drove by, there's like candy in the window, there's sodas in the window. Like, what is this thing? And no one really knew what was going on. And that attorney just came up here and said, you guys failed to communicate with him, and that's why they're going to sue you. Well, that's not true, because the township did go over there. They left business cards. They said, please let us know what's going on. What is under the brown paper wrappers? What's going on here? What are you working on at night? You don't have a business permit. You don't have a business license. You didn't go to our signage committee. So they never communicated with you. So we don't owe them the chance to communicate with you about this ordinance. And I'm really grateful that you're going to do what's right for our kids and you're going to pass it. And this is what I want to talk about tonight. The attorney came up last week and said that they don't market to children. Well, that's not true, because the very same day that that store opened, I happened to go to Jules Pizza because I love to support local businesses. And when I went in, right next to the cash register, I didn't have this with me last week, was this card that said, you're invited to the grand opening of our 50th store. Spread the love with a $50 mystery box, $100 value. You can choose from CBD or Kratom, and you can spin the wheel to win a prize. It's like a carnival. This is at Jules Pizza, where our kids on Friday, the day after the store opened, walked into Wayne, they go get their slice of pizza, and then they all went and took selfies and Snapchatted themselves in front of the 8-foot tall marijuana leaf. So they are marketing to children. And they can claim they're not. I think they said they were marketing it to 40-year-old women. Well, then why do you have candy and soda on this $5 coupon? They are actively trying to get children into their store. They're marketing it to children by making it look like something cool. So I want to thank all of you for standing up and doing what's right for our community. And I also want you to support the banning the safe injection sites. I want you to ban needle exchanges. It's really scary that we have to talk about these topics here in Radnor, but we need to be proactive. And so I thank you all, and I hope that everyone votes tonight. Thanks so much.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Thank you all for your comments. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the ordinance.
So moved.
And a second?
I second it.
Sorry, drop the mic. I will call the vote. All in favor?
Don't commissioners
Oh.
get a comment?
Of course.
Sorry.
Getting a little rattled. Yes.
Yeah.
May I please hear from commissioners? Mr. Farhi, would you like to start?
I'll just go first, and I'll be brief because I said everything that I had to say. But I, for one, I don't like being threatened. That's number one. But this is as good of a compromise as you get. No one's happy 100%. So we can't make everybody happy, but I think we made a lot of people aware of the situation. You came to us. I think we fixed it the best that we could. And I'm okay with this, and I'm going to be voting for this. And I'd like to thank my other commissioners, especially Commissioner Jones, who kind of led the charge on this as well. So you have my vote. I will be voting for this. Thank you.
Other commissioners? No other comment? I will call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. And thank you all for your participation on this issue. Appreciate hearing from the community. We are now going to move to another related item, discussion and direction on petitioning the state on Kratom. I'm going to ask Commissioner Larkin to speak to this.
Sure. So there's, I guess, a claim that a lawsuit has already been filed. I'm not able to find it online either in Delaware County or the Eastern District Court, but I assume that it has been filed. They're either going to be successful or they're not. If they're successful, then the township's ordinance is going to end up getting rolled back by a court. There is a procedure that exists at state law which enables the Secretary of Health to list a substance on the Register of Controlled Substances. In order to do so, any interested person can submit a petition. My proposal would be, since there seems to be an interest on behalf of the residents in order to get this as a banned substance throughout the entirety of the Commonwealth, or rather I should say, since there seems to be an interest on behalf of the residents to get this to be a banned substance and out of their own lives, and the best way to do that is probably to ban it across the entirety of the Commonwealth, both because that would mean that it's not present in Radnor, because it's not available for purchase in Tredyffrin or Newtown or some adjoining township where you could just drive right across the township lines, and because it would also then no longer be subject to challenge as an ordinance. There would, I guess, be a different challenge, but it wouldn't be our problem. It would create multiple barriers. My suggestion would be that the township should create such a petition. I think I've circulated a draft as an initial stab at that to the solicitor, and then I would like to enable residents to join in the petition. There's no requirement, as I read the statute, that you have some number of signers on the petition. You don't need 100 signers, you don't need 1,000 signers, but just in the nature of things, if you get a application that says, here are 10,000 Radnor residents who would like you, Madam Acting Secretary of Health, please take a look at this. I feel like that's probably going to be more forceful than just, hey, the Board of Commissioners of Radnor Township would like you to take a look at this. So it would be us and not us or them. That's all I got.
Open it up to discussion. I will start with, I have seen what you sent to the solicitor. We should obviously share it with the rest of the commissioners, but I would like to see if there's some way to make it easy for township residents to sign. So instead of having to stop by the township building and ask somebody where that sheet of paper is, if we could figure out a way to collect signatures electronically and then advertise that to the community, that would be my suggestion. Does anybody have any other comments?
I'll jump in. I think, I hear you that it's hard for them to sign it, but I think a hard copy signature is the best. I've seen this stuff on Fenimore Woods, and I've seen somebody sign their name. It was, the first name was N, there was no last name, and they were from USA. So I think that it should be done in a way where they sign their name, they write their name, and they put their address down there. So I would feel more comfortable, and I think there's more credibility than that, and we can monitor it too, and that prevents from bad characters, which they've seemed to infiltrate our Board of Health meeting with names that may not be the right names on a petition. So you can figure out those names. But yeah, I would be in favor of this, as long as it's Kratom. And
we have a resident here who started a petition. She has over 1,000 signatures. We could probably keep that one going. Or I mean, I think some of the language would have to be changed actually in that petition. I don't know if you can rescind some of what was there. I'm speaking to her now. She knows who she is. And then change the language to reflect what we're looking to do, so we don't have to start over with signatures. I guess that's why I'm proposing that. And then if each of us push it out in a newsletter, we could hit all of our constituents. Could that be done?
I think the, if somebody signed a petition with certain language, just transferring those signatures over, I think is a little suspect. So I would want somebody to, you know, openly acknowledge what they are signing. So I think this would have to start over. But if we could do an in-person and online alternative, I think that would be the easiest way, and then I agree that commissioners can make sure that the message gets out to the community. We can set some time limits on when we plan to present. Other commissioners?
Yeah, I don't want to hold it up over trying to figure out whether we can do online or not. We've filled this room 4 meetings in a row. I don't think we're going to have a problem with residents showing up to sign. They've made it very clear that they don't want it here, and coming in to sign a paper, I don't think it's too much to ask. So, I mean, I'd like to see this expedited as quickly as possible and make it available, sign it, and get it off to whoever, you know, if Jack says it's the Board of Health, then it's Board of Health. But let's get it out there, let's get it done, and let's move this forward.
So I guess, so my question would be around that, can we enlist people from the community? Could we have like multiple petitions? Could people who are interested, and if we do want to get hard copy signatures, have people who have already started the online petition, you know, maybe then take that petition out there? Would it need to be here? Would we need to monitor who's signing? Like, or can we, you know, take it out and people get their neighbors to sign? So then we're kind of, you know, spreading the work around, and more people who are out there carrying petitions can get more signatures.
The one that's out there would work. It does say a ban, and what is the language? I guess we would have to talk about, like, what is the language that what are we looking to do? Are we looking to ban it, or are we looking to classify it as a controlled substance?
So the statute has a not terribly detailed process for what the secretary is supposed to do, but it does have a process. So the secretary gets a petition from either her own office, she can do it on her own motion, she can do it from a petition by any interested party, or I think there's one other person, I think the Commonwealth could petition her as well. She then has to go to the Drug Control Board and ask them for their feedback, which needs to be provided within a reasonable amount of time. Following that, she's permitted to list a substance in the Pennsylvania Register as a controlled substance. She can do so on an emergency basis if she chooses to do so without waiting the full amount of time, or she can go through the entirety of the process. If it's listed early, there is an appeals process. There's another appeals process if it's listed late. There's a set of criteria that has to be looked at in order to determine whether it could be a controlled substance or not. So it's not just that she's going to get our petition and say, you know what, I think that's a great idea, I'm going to do that. She has to go through a fairly rigorous medical process. But she's the person who makes that decision whether it should be a scheduled drug. And then once you do that, it becomes enforceable as part of the Controlled Drug Act.
So can I just add that, you know, concurrently, I think we need to continue to also talk about the legislation that's out there with that Representative Pennicook, who came to the event that Commissioner Jones helped to facilitate. That legislation is still out there. That is the consumer protection around these substances. I think we need to continue to push that. So people need to reach out. I reached out to Representative O'Mara. She's one of the co-sponsors of that, and she continues to say we need to talk to this Representative Kathy Rapp, our APP, who is the chair of the House Health Committee, and she is the one, this is where this bill sits, And she is the one that can help decide whether or not this gets pushed out so that there could be a vote on it, or they can start to debate it. So I think that while we do this, we should also be doing that. There's like multiple things that we can be doing and feel like we are, kind of helping to control our destiny when it comes to this. So I would, I think that people need to do that. Kathy Rapp, R-A-P-P, she can be found online. If you Google her site will come up. I would say the URL, but it's really long. So, but there's a contact form. You can go right in there and contact her and urge her to move the bill forward. So that's what I would, in addition to this, we should do that as well.
Do you have something else? So I am hearing that a sense of the board is to move forward with a petition. I'd like to ask the solicitor to consider what's been presented by Commissioner Larkin and share it with the other commissioners for comment. And then, if possible, working with the township to see if there is sort of a hybrid way of collecting signatures. If that's not possible, let's get a plan about where we would have a paper, how people would know about it, how they could get here to sign it. Does that sound like a plan?
Yep.
Okay, thank you all. Okay, moving on to item 3C, which is a motion to approve funding for the road closure, safety, and staffing resources for the June 11th, 2022 Music Festival. Bill, do you want to speak to this?
Sure, I can lead us in. This is the same item that was on the last Board of Commissioner meeting. I think during that discussion, we spent a lot of the time talking about the nuts and bolts of the safety plan, and didn't really fully emphasize that the work that went into developing that plan by police, public works, codes, finance, all that work was done in an effort to, because we want to do our part to make sure that it's a good day for Radnor. And with the expected crowd that was there the last time this event went off, and expected to be that same type of crowd this time, we wanted to make sure that it was staffed so that the folks attending have a safe day. In talking with our different departments, they put that much time in because they're excited to execute that plan if the board so approves. We also talked a little bit about the budget and its impact. It does carry a cost with it. We do factor that into the budget numbers when we put that together. And once a year, this is something I think we can handle. If this kind of safety plan would be tough to do if we did it every month. But it's a once per year type of event. So budgetarily, I think we're okay. And ultimately, what we're asking the board is, with their vote, to approve closing the roads down necessary to execute or allow the festival to go off, and then also the safety and staffing plan that we had talked about in executive session.
Thank you very much. This is a motion to approve the funding. I'm going to take a motion and then we can have comment. So
moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and I'll start with Commissioner comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this issue?
Yeah, I will. So this obviously is a festival that we're talking about. It needs additional funding from the township in the form of security and policing because it's wildly popular. We are not being asked to do something that is just going to look out for a single interest or a single area. It is instead something that puts Radnor Township on the map in a very real way. Has a positive influence on, I see members of the WBA here, so I'm hopeful that they're going to tell me all the businesses in the area and that's something they support, something that they've said in the past. So I may be preempting you a little bit, Chris and Kenny, but I am anticipating that I will hear something like that. If we end up saying no, then I think fundamentally what we're doing is we're shutting down the event, and we're probably shutting down the event forever because They're just not going to keep doing it if they can't have policing, and it's going to be really difficult to put the toothpaste back into the tube in the form of creating a much smaller event when people who have been there for years and have come to expect what it is are going to be told you either can't come or you need to buy tickets or it's only going to be a really tiny event. So particularly as we come back from the pandemic and start to rebuild our business privilege and mercantile base, we would very much be shooting ourselves in the foot by saying no to a event that has the kind of marketing reach and just positive goodwill that this event generates. So my request is that we do vote to approve this. I think it would be foolish not to. And also thanks to everybody who's put in the work in advance, both for previous years and for this year, for the work that you've done. So thanks very much, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else? Lisa?
So we do a lot of things, make a lot of decisions up here that are investments in our community. We just voted on an ordinance that I think we could all agree is an investment in our community. I think I agree with Commissioner Larkin that this festival is an investment in our community and that the Radnor residents that are behind this, that put a lot of heart and soul into bringing this to our community are doing so. It is a fundraiser, but I don't think they would bring it here if it was not of benefit to our community. I think that anything we do that helps to raise our profile, not only here in Radnor, but across the region, and it certainly does draw people from all over. So I believe that it is a worthy investment. I always support the township making worthy investments, whether it's in our senior center or our library, or a festival that is going to bring many people and expose them to all the things that are really great about Radnor and about Wayne. So I'll be supporting this, and I'm glad to do it and look forward to the event. And I thank our staff, especially our police, our emergency management, who have done a fantastic job in planning out a way to make a safe and fun day for everyone that comes. Thank you.
Other comment?
So I would be supportive of this if this was, A, put on as a separate line item in future budgets under the 503C. So if we're going to donate money to a library or to the Wayne Community Center or the Art Center, that we put this down, that we're going to give them that money. That being said, I don't see a dollar amount listed on the agenda packet. And I don't like that. I have a big problem authorizing money when it's not in any kind of form. Typically, when this happens, we do something or we say something or there's something is added to say not to exceed. Well, what happens if that is exceeded? So I don't like that again for that as well. This is something that I could latch onto if this was backstopped. And I called Mr. Kenny and told him that. To just say, we're going to give you all the money. If we give them money, that's fine. But before they donate to their charity, we as taxpayers need to protect our charity, which is our tax base. And I don't want to be grabbing money from seniors, people that have lost their jobs, are having difficulty putting gas in their car at $4 or $5 a gallon, and telling them that we're going to go spend money on something that's important, I agree, but not essential. When you talk about it being an investment, this is not an investment. Investments often pay for themselves. You get something back for it. We do. What we get back is a great day. But this doesn't pay for itself. The township would have to do something like $14 million in sales throughout the community, throughout those vendors, to recoup the $40,000 or so that we're paying to the police. So that investment, it's not. It's not. It's fun, but it's not an investment. The tent, which we paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for, was fun. It helped keep businesses alive, but it is not an investment. So if you want to, and I would put a motion there, if someone, which I doubt, I'm not even going to bother because it's not going to get seconded, but this should be backstopped, period. And speaking from someone, again, in Garrett Hill, it's great to see that we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on tents and 40,000 plus on music festivals, but what does Garrett Hill get? We don't get outdoor dining, that's for sure. Thank you.
Other commissioner comment?
Yeah, so I'll agree with Jack. It's a great day. A lot of people go to it. I've been to a couple, and it's a lot of fun. But I also agree with Sean that, there's a process that we ran in November where we heard presentations from all the 501c3s who were requesting township funding. And to be honest, in Canada, I'm very, very consistent in my position that the township shouldn't be in the business of funding 501c3s. I hold the library and the fire company in a different light, but the others, I think we need to wean off and look to use that money for other items that I believe that we are responsible for, and it should be our core focus. So, similar to Sean, if the township can't be made whole with this expenditure, I can't support it. So, and since the last meeting, nobody from the Music Fest has reached out to me to even have a discussion or to convince me that I should see it a different way. So, for those reasons, I will not be supporting this current resolution as written.
Jake, would you support it if I make a motion that we backstop the 42,000?
To be made whole?
Yes.
Of course.
Okay, so I'm going to make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Maura?
Yep. I'm going to speak briefly on this. I needed to...
As we got a motion in front of us, so Commissioner Farhi, can you articulate your motion?
Yeah, that whatever money that we give to the, or that we pay out in police, public works, et cetera, that before the music festival donates whatever that is to whatever charitable organization that they donate to, that the township is made whole before any other expenditure is paid out to a charity or their vendors. We're the first money in, we're the first money out. That simple.
So I hear an amendment to require the planners of the June 11th Music Festival to pay back the cost of the road closure, safety, and staffing resources. That is approximately $42,000 as presented at the meeting last meeting. I will call the vote on the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. It does not carry, so we are, I'm going to ask for public comment on the original motion to approve funding for the road closures. Oh, sorry, Anna Marie. Now you can.
Fine.
Sorry.
I just, it's kind of a moot point now, but I was going to say that I just think that, I had to have more of an understanding of where the money comes from, and, it's very transparent that we do have the money there available to support. It's a community event. It's a township event. It's something that we might not, quantitatively get the ROI, but it brings back, people come back. It's a great economic investment because people come to the event. It puts Radnor on the map for them. They get to see who we are. They get to see our shops and our restaurants. If they're not coming in that day at that moment, then they're coming back. And it really is, good on you guys. It's a great, great thing that you do for the community, so I thank you. I will be voting for this, obviously.
Have all commissioners spoken? I'm going to ask for public comment.
Hello, Commissioners. Great job so far today. We'll see how the rest of it goes. The Chris Todd, Christopher's Restaurant on 108 North Wayne Avenue. Just a little history. I apologize, there's new faces and everything. This event started in 2003. Myself, Jen Baylor, and Laura Munich, who owned a coffee shop at the train station. We got together, we would do events in town, and everybody was like, well, where's Radnor? Where's Wayne? So we stopped doing events in town because it was a far away, it's 30 minutes away, and it's hard to bring 500 trout raviolis down there and, do all that fun stuff. So we brought it to the door, okay? 2003, so it's been 18 years. We've always had the wonderful support of the township. We really do appreciate it. It can't happen without you, obviously. Public Works and Police, so very important in planning this. As for, we can discuss, definitions of investment and all that kind of jazz, but it really, truly is an investment in the community. It's proven year after year as more people, you go downtown now, people know where, you go down in Philadelphia, people know where Radnor Township is. It's on XPN. People, they hear about it. So whether 20 years ago, if you bought your house there, I think it's worth more now. The business interest and all that kind of stuff has helped with that, besides the school boards and all that fun stuff. But anyway, you always get my heart beating fast, Sean. I don't know why. Yeah. We do really appreciate it. Again, it's been 18 years. We haven't had it for the past 2 years, obviously, for obvious reasons. But we do appreciate your support. And I will make sure I email everybody my address, and if you have any other questions, and we can even do a presentation, but we do appreciate it. All right? And by the way, community support, yes, remember, Wayne doesn't have, people say we have a lot of turnover in Wayne. It's not that much turnover. I mean, the restaurants, we've all been there for a long time now. The new ones are much appreciated for these events. There's always one or two guys that, two business people that are, we bother them on that Saturday, but, 5, 6, 8,000 people walk by your store, make it happen. So, all right? Can I ask any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else like to make comment? Seeing none, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations. Looking forward to the festival. Thank you all very much. I am going to move on to the next item, which is Resolution 2022-38. This is 236 North Aberdeen Avenue. It's final minor subdivision plan approval. Mr. Norsini, can you lead us in on this one?
Thank you, Commissioner. So Ms. Flynn was here at the previous meeting for caucus. She is now here for a final approval from the board. Mr. Rice has prepared the approval resolution. There are 2 waivers, which the engineering department has no concern with or issue with, and I will leave the rest to Ms. Flynn.
Good evening. I think Steve covered it. We're here for a minor subdivision to take 1 lot to 2. It would involve the demolition of an existing home and the building of 2 new homes attached as twins. The waivers that are requested are the waiver to not show all of the features within 500 feet. We've provided an aerial in place of that. And the other is to allow for the driveways to be within 5 feet of the side property line so that they can be on the shared property line between the twins rather than spread out to the neighbors' sidelines. And I can answer questions, but we discussed this just a couple weeks ago.
Are there any questions from commissioners? May I hear a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Is there any other public comment? Then I'm going to call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all.
So moving on to Resolution 2022-37, authorizing the expenditure of not to exceed $25,000 for the Radnor Street Road Storm Sewer Project to be paid from the Stormwater Fund. Mr. Norsini?
Thank you, Commissioner Mulroney. So this is an in-house job that was designed and that we're coming to the board for to get approval, to obtain quotes. But I'm actually very happy to introduce tonight Ben Wagner, our staff engineer. He's going to step through this project, which he designed, as well as other things he's working on. You may recall when the board gave us approval to hire Ben, that was based on his ability to design projects and therefore defer his salary based on not using consultants. So I introduce you to Ben Wagner.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, everyone. As Steve said, I'm Ben. I'm with the engineering department. This is a project I worked on down on Radnor Street Road. Let me grab the pointer. Location here down by Gulf Creek and Cohen Park. Just some background. So this area gets a lot of flooding, ponding issues, being right down by the creek, and some very outdated storm infrastructure. It's an old township. Here's how it looks now. A big issue is the yard of 264 Willow gets, once the
Ben,
the
I'm
creek-
I'm gonna cut you off. The screen is really light, and I'm hoping that maybe Ian can do some magic so that we can see the drawings a little bit more. Is there any way to manage the, taking some lights down helps. Okay,
That
go
good?
ahead.
Yep.
It might be.
So 264 Willow, when we have a heavy storm, this yard gets a lot of flooding. With the infrastructure that's there now, I guess it's not sufficient. So just what we have proposed here, 2 new storm inlets here on Radnor Street Road, one on Willow, and then another on the other side of the creek on Radnor Street. We're just hoping this will, aid in the flooding issues. Hopefully prevent, the yard of 264 Willow from getting these nuisance floods. Hopefully that will happen less frequently. And here's just pipe profiles and specific details. Now we can see that better. But yeah, it's a pretty small project. As Steve said, should be less than 25,000. And if that gets approved, we can bid that out and hopefully get construction going. But yeah.
Ben, can you speak a little bit to the specific methods being used to address the stormwater? Like, what exactly is going into this project?
Yeah, so we're adding 4 new inlets. A lot of the issues is some of the inlets out there now overflow, and then they can't take any more storm runoff. So we're hoping that the addition of these 4 new inlets will, add to the capability of the system as a whole. If we're getting another hurricane or 100-year storm, it might be out of luck, but this should definitely help with, your more average, your more average rainstorm. Prevent flooding down. It's hard being right down there by the creek, but we think this will help. Yeah, as I said.
Do any commissioners have questions?
So I'm looking at the schematic. First, welcome. And
thank you. I appreciate that.
You're doing a good job with your first presentation. So are you piping this under people's lawns? I'm looking at the grates, and you're piping it into Gulf Creek. Is that where the water's going to go?
So there is an existing pipe that outlets under the yard at 264 Willow, but we're not adding any new outlet pipes. There's currently one that runs under the playground. which we didn't want to touch because we didn't want to have to dig up the playground. But there won't be any work being done in any lawns.
So you're just adding grates to an existing system
Yeah.
to allow more opportunity for water. So because right now, all the water rushes down and then it floods out the playground, correct?
Yeah.
And the park.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, so nobody's lawns are being dug up, like all those pipes are already still there?
Yes.
Okay.
The pipes going in are all in the road.
Okay. All right. Well, good work. I think anything we can do to help over there, I'm sure that Commissioner Larkin will agree. I know that that's a big issue for you.
All the stormwater, please.
Yes.
All the stormwater.
That's why I'm here, so that's why I'm
Thank you.
hoping to get started.
So my other question, are we going to do any, so we're going to do this and see how it works and then continue on with any other remedies over there, or?
So we do have the tree well planting project that's going to be going out soon, but I'm going to let Ben talk to you about some other designs he's working on.
Yeah.
Do tell.
Yeah, so I've got a few more here that I've kind of started. Some are waiting on survey on, but all similar flooding issues. The corner of Wild Haven and South Ethan has some serious ponding issues. South Devon, there's a pipe under the sidewalk there that is totally, I don't know, 75 years old, so it's totally busted. And some people's driveways and sidewalks are being affected by that. And then between Morris and Clover, there's an existing pipe that runs through those backyards that our hope is to relocate that into the street because they're having issues with that. Because once again, it's old and it's probably busted up. And then a more long-term thing is we're developing some Radnor Township construction standards that hopefully our consultants and contractors can follow when they're doing projects for the township. And that's mostly what I'm working on thus far.
Excellent. We're glad to have you. Any other commissioner comment? I'm seeing.
I'll just say welcome aboard, and
Appreciate it.
I'm sure Steve is happy that he has someone to share that workload with.
Yeah.
And I am as well. So welcome aboard and good luck, and it's great to have you on.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Is there any public comment on the Radnor Street Road Storm Sewer Project? Okay, can I get a motion
So moved.
and a second? And can I call the vote? All in favor, say aye. Pass unanimously. Thank you
you.
very much, Ben. You did great. Moving on to Resolution 2022-40, a resolution of the Radnor Township Board of Commissioners, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, engaging the Cohen Law Group to negotiate with Verizon with respect to the township franchise agreement in an amount not to exceed $36,500. Bill, can you lead us in on this?
I'm actually going to ask Molly to, and then
Thanks, Molly.
I can help answer any questions that come up.
Thanks, Bill. Good evening, Commissioners. With this resolution, we recommend the engagement of Cohen Law Group as legal representatives of Radnor Township for the franchise agreement negotiations with Verizon. In their proposal, Cohen Law Group recommends the township negotiate a new Verizon agreement to address the changes since the last franchise agreement, which began in 2006 and expired in the fall of 2021, and to secure maximum benefits for the township. One of the goals of this new agreement is to be as consistent as possible with the recently negotiated franchise renewal with Comcast. Cohen Law Group are demonstrated experts in these negotiations, as we experienced with the recent successful negotiations with Comcast. As part of those negotiations, which wrapped up in 2020, Cohen was able to negotiate higher PEG dollars for the township, and we were very pleased with that outcome and their overall professionalism. Also, as part of this new resolution, we recommend that Cohen Law Group report back through the Citizens Communication Council. as negotiations proceed. Our resident volunteer group is an important part to our township, and we believe their involvement in the franchise negotiations will be very helpful.
Thank you, Molly. Can I hear a motion and a second?
Second.
I'm going to open it up to comments from the commissioners. Well, go ahead, Commissioner Borowski.
So my, really my one and only question about this is, so we're going to engage in this, and I think we all know kind of what happened with the Comcast negotiation. It was rather lengthy, and I think spanned probably 3 boards. I know it was ongoing when I joined the board, and then I think we didn't finally finalize it until we had another board. So it was a long time, and I'm just wondering if, so I see the not to exceed amount, and I'm not questioning Cohen or their, they've proven to be, very well, well versed. I guess my question is, do we want to put some sort of timeline on the negotiations as well in the resolution? Because, and I don't know how that would hinder the work, I'm not sure, but I just feel like, I think the last one was like 5 years or maybe longer. So I'm just wondering if, and while we'll say not to exceed 36.5 once they start in the work, I mean, I think we approved like maybe at least 2 extensions and additional payments for the Comcast contract. So I just, I'm just wondering, can we put like a timeline on this as well?
I'll jump in and answer that one because I have a little bit more of the history than Molly. So first, we factored some of that into the number. Cohen had provided us with a base estimate to perform the negotiations, as well as an hourly, an hourly rate. So we incorporated a little bit over their base estimate to try to capture some of that uncertainty in negotiations. Specific to the Comcast time frame, that had a couple complicating factors. Early on in the negotiations, there was pitches made back and forth prior to Cohen coming on board. Comcast kind of dug their heels in on those, so it took a little while to get them off of that point. That won't be the case with Verizon. We're starting from square one with Cohen. And the second thing is there was, if you'll recall, for those board members who were here at the time, there was a full needs assessment that was required to be done as part of the PEG portion of the negotiation. That took a considerable amount of time, and then once it was done, it took a considerable amount of negotiating between Comcast and the township to come to terms on what was included in the list. Now that we have a list that has been, in essence, approved by Comcast, it's going to be difficult for Verizon to argue against it. And then the last element is that there are clauses in each of the franchise agreements that point to the other franchise agreement and say that they need to be consistent with one another. This negotiation being on the heels of the Comcast, and with Comcast being the more current version of what exists in this world today, Verizon can reasonably expect what they're going to see coming from the township because we have an agreement with Comcast that lays it out. So this negotiation will be significantly different versus the Comcast one for those reasons. I think it'll be shorter. And then to tie up this whole, or to tie off this whole explanation is that when we do come back to the board like we did with the Comcast with change orders for additional money to Cohen, that in essence was extending the timeline because the dollar amount is the timeline. They may spend that in 6 months, they may spend it in 4, just depending on how the negotiations go. So it's really hard to nail this down to a calendar. It's more driven by the hours needed to get the job done. And if we do reach that point and then we do need more time and money, we'll have to come back in front of the board with that request along with an explanation as to why.
And then my only other question is, will we be engaging the communications committee of the township as part of this? I know we don't want them to, they won't be the negotiators, but will they see kind of what comes back and have an opportunity to weigh in?
Yes, we've asked Cohen to run all negotiations through them. So once they reach plateaus with Cohen and conversation points with Cohen, to please come back to the CCC, report through them for a township voice.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
I have a question about, perhaps you can shine a little bit of light about the benefits that we've seen since the contract, since the negotiation with Comcast. I was looking at some numbers. It seems that our revenue increased. Do you think that that was directly related to the representation we had, to the contract that was negotiated by Cohen?
Yes, for two reasons. When you take, so there's two elements of revenue that we receive from these agreements. There's the franchise portion, which is just a percentage on cable subscribers. The PEG, which is the Public Education and Government Channel obligation of the township, which is generated for the capital necessities of offering televised meetings and public access, which is run by Studio 21. For the commissioners that were here, this will be recall. For the new commissioners, because these agreements span so much time, the industry evolves. There's more revenue streams associated with cable and associated viewership. So as part of the Comcast agreement, there were a number of new revenue streams that were recognized under the gross revenue calculation, which then flows through to additional monies to the township. So I do associate that increase to those additional revenue streams because we're not seeing, on the franchise side, we're not seeing an increase in revenue there, which is telling us that subscriptions are plateaued. But we are seeing an increase on the PEG side, which means, in terms of just straight math, that's the part of the equation that's generating more money, is the additional revenue streams.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from commissioners?
Just one. This is so out of my wheelhouse that I'm just going to defer to all of you on cutting a good deal, and because it's pages, I'm hoping, maybe optimistic, is going to be this thick, or is it going to be thicker? About yay thick. So if you guys, it's going to come down to if you guys are happy with it. It's a long time coming. I'll be happy with it. So cut the best deal that you can.
I appreciate that. And it's worth mentioning again, this is a renewal. So we're building off of a pretty solid foundation. It's different than it was back in 2006 when it was being negotiated for the first time.
Any other comments from commissioners? Is there public comment? I would call the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Passed unanimously. Thank you. And moving to, we've got I thought Jack was going to speak to this.
Oh,
Can you lead it in, Bill? So
I
we're
can always
moving
chew
on
up some
to
time.
discussion and direction on redistricting.
So we've had a couple conversations in our board meetings on this. What we were hoping for tonight was getting direction from the board on how you would like to organize whatever group of commissioners and outside representation to assist in the process. Administratively, we're working on securing the GIS component, the mapping component that provides us with the census information that will provide whatever group that the board decides wants to steer this discussion with the data needed to do what you need to do to redistrict. So for tonight's purposes, we're hoping to get some direction from the board on the redistricting group that's going to steer the discussion. And from there, we could meet administratively to talk about the tools that are available to help you get that job done.
Okay, I will then open it for discussion to members of the board. I'll just simply start by saying I think this is, it's going to be a heavy lift, but I think that we've got the, if we have the right plan in place, I think that it's going to be a beneficial process for the whole community. I would hope that that would be a big part of what we're talking about, is having somebody help us to present to the community the issues and, you know, ultimately get to the right answers, a little bit of math and a little bit of mapping. And but I do think that it's an exciting process that we're going into. So any other commissioners have comments on redistricting? So I feel like there is perhaps a direction from us to get you started with, I mean, can you kind of, I'm not hearing a lot from these commissioners, so I'm looking to you, Township Manager, to sort of fill the air here. But if you could describe a little bit, as you and I have discussed earlier, some processes that might happen, what it could look like, and that might get the conversation started, or at least help us give you direction.
Sure. With other initiatives, the board has chosen a subset of itself, usually 3 commissioners, to again kind of steer that discussion and manage the process in terms of the public meetings, the discussion, the communication with the residents, and just how you, the commissioners, want to see the redistricting project move forward publicly. So in not just having, say, 3 commissioners, but then it's also been proposed or suggested having an outside group assist, or members of an outside group, or members from multiple outside groups assist in driving the ship with the commissioners as an independent voice. And then administratively, the last time the township did this 8 or 9 years ago, we retained the services of an individual that did the mapping and provided the technical part of the discussion. We have a proposal from our GIS company to help the commissioners do that this time, but we're not there yet. We want whoever the steering committee is to see the product first, agree that it is what you want to use to get this job done, and then we'll approve and move forward on that. But so we're starting here tonight with who's going to be the steering committee.
So I volunteer to be on the steering committee. I'll say that, I mean, as you know, we're required to do this. It's in our charter. We don't really have a choice. We have to do it. I'm fairly happy with the districts that we have right now. They don't look like Donald Duck, the way the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania complained about. They're more or less compact, contiguous. They followed natural geographical boundaries. I know that, speaking for my own ward, you've got Lancaster Avenue, you've got the border of the township, and you've got King of Prussia, which make up more or less the 3 legs of the triangle. I think those are fairly logical geographic boundaries within the township. Villanova is kind of split up. I've heard from a few people that the reason why that's the case is intentionally to dilute the voting power of the students, which is often kind of preached as a feature, not a bug, because that way you've got people who are transients who are not really influencing the township. That's probably the only thing that I would push back on. I could be convinced otherwise, but I kind of feel like if you live here, you get to vote here. That's just sort of the rules. In terms of the mechanism of how we do this, I'd very much like to hire a professional who's actually in charge of the of drawing the maps, running the computer software, which is not the sort of thing that I think most people just kind of have. I certainly want the participation of members of the public. I'm not sure that this is something that it makes sense to have a giant blue ribbon committee for, where you've got 40 different people all drawing maps. It's just going to be a mess, in my opinion, because everybody's going to have a different set of criteria for what they want. I'd like to have somebody who comes in as a professional and sets the anchor, and then the rest of the group is just kind of making tweaks as much as possible.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll jump in. Jack, so are you saying that you said that you would volunteer to be on the steering committee? So do you want to be on it, or do you think that it's not appropriate to be on it?
No, I said I'd volunteer for the committee.
All right. I'm just under the impression that no commissioner should be on this. This is not, we have our own agenda, and manipulating our voters' wards should not be one of them. In regards to Villanova, Villanova should be broken up. If it's not broken up, if Villanova was really in one ward, you could potentially have 4,000 or 5,000 people that are on the voter registration who don't necessarily live here, but are on that voter registration vote. So you may have a very, very small group of active residents and a large group of people that are just there that shouldn't be there. The other issue that I have, and as of now it looks like we're not going to have two separate state representatives. I think that's an issue. We shouldn't break up wards. We shouldn't break up precincts where one goes to one state rep and the other one goes to the other state representative. So I like that. Larger HOAs should be stay together. Really, all HOAs should stay together. I think that's easier for the commissioner to talk with the residents and to have some kind of dialogue with them. As of now, I'm in an HOA that is separated into two. So those are really the few things that I have, but I think that as commissioners, this affects us, so I wouldn't want any, I think that it's probably best practice and not to have any kind of conflict of interest, that we should not be involved, at least not initially. We should vote on it if we like it. Thank you.
Any other comment from commissioners?
So I had advocated for the league to be involved in this before, and I know that's not a probably not something that everyone is interested in, but I do think that they are an organized group. They do this kind of work. I'm not saying they would set the tone or whatever, but I maybe including some of the membership would be a good thing. There's a part, I could go either way. I think on commissioners being on it, I guess I more lean towards there being some commissioners on it, because what I don't want to see happen is a group of residents and we go through a whole process and then something come before the board and nobody like it and nobody, and we have to kind of go back to the drawing board. I think it does help to have commissioner input in groups like this, similar to, when we're liaison with the Parks and Rec or with Shade Tree, we can provide, I think, a little bit of perspective, maybe board perspective when it comes to this. Like, for instance, if, one of my things is I don't think that any commissioner should be drawn out of their ward. Like, we shouldn't have to deal with that. So that should be, one of the things that we look to not do from the get-go. So I could go either way, but I guess I do more lean towards having some commissioners involved in the process. And it also helps, I think, when it comes to, maybe advocating with the board and trying to create some consensus around, a way to move, decisions or ways to move forward. Because there could potentially be times in the process like that we might need to weigh in. Do you envision this, Bill, if something's happening with the group, that something might have to come back to the commissioners. Is it helpful to have somebody there or have some commissioners there who understand and know what the process is to help share that information with everyone else?
Yes, ultimately, the end product is an ordinance to be considered by the Board of Commissioners on the new redistricted map. So it'll come back in front of the entire board. So to your point, having commissioners work on it throughout the process might help in that discussion when that time comes.
Then we don't end up with everybody hating something, and we do have to go back to the drawing board, or we don't have something that anyone can agree on.
Just real quick, sorry, Mark. If you're going to put one commissioner on, you should put them all on.
There's going to be, I feel very strongly that there will be 3 commissioners on it. That means you don't violate sunshine. They can do the work of that steering committee and present it back to the larger board. So I do want to move forward with that structure. Who will be on the committee will be selected by leadership in consultation with staff. And then I think probably next step is to get our head around an RFP for a professional. And I'd like to ask staff to start that process as well. Does anybody have anything to add to help staff?
Just one comment. In terms of the, I'll call it a subcommittee of the board, you really should bring that back as a resolution at the next meeting, once it's determined who's going to be on it. I think that was the process last time. There was a subcommittee appointed of the Board of Commissioners, and then the consultant, Amanda Holt, was involved last time, but I think Bill has the GIS folks actually have an election mapping group within there. So, you know, that can be approved by the board, you know, also if that's ready. But simple resolution appointing the subcommittee to do the procedure in accordance with the Municipal Reapportionment Act, you know, which, is, as Jack said, is mandatory.
Okay, it sounds like we're asking the solicitor to help us draft a resolution to be brought back to the next meeting. Thank you, everybody, for the discussion. Moving on to item H, discussion and direction to staff to prepare the necessary legislation that would prohibit safe injection sites or any facility that administers, gives safe haven to, or facilitates the use of unprescribed or illegal opioids or other drugs within the confines of Radnor Township. Commissioner Farhi, would you like to lead us in?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Maroney. So I brought this up. I brought this up actually several years ago when there was a medicinal marijuana store that wanted to be put into Garrett Hill. The reason why I'm bringing this up again is I don't want to be reactive as we were with the idea of having Kratom or CBD or Delta 8 in our community. So I want to be proactive. I don't want it in our community. I don't want it to be any kind of vessel. I understand that it is, as we discussed, illegal, but I want to make sure that it stays out of this township. Now, I heard what you said, and I think that there's no one that knows more about heroin and the dangers of addicted drugs than you. But you say one thing, and you've said it a bunch of times, and it's caught my ear. And this is why I wanted to. You said that the people that are in Kensington doing drugs and getting high, you said that they're not Kenzos, they're your kids. And I want to keep this stuff away from my kids. Period. Thanks.
Okay, a couple of things. First off, there is no one who is asked to have a safe injection site in Radnor. Second off, safe injection sites are illegal. You can't have them. The safe injection site would essentially be the township saying that we are going to, as a township, not police a specific location. if it's a federal crime or a state crime to have whatever drug it is, we don't have the authority to say we're just not going to police that particular area for that particular crime, for the exact same reason that the safe injection site in Philadelphia has repeatedly failed. But the bigger problem here is that the people who would be making the decision to have a safe injection site in this particular instance is this board. In order to have a safe injection site, we would all have to say, we would like to have a safe injection site. Radnor Police Departments, please just don't go over there to that particular area. Let people do whatever they're going to do. So this creates a technical problem because we can't bind future boards here. If we want to create a resolution or an ordinance or whatever else that says no safe injection sites, a future board can absolutely say, we're just going to overrule that. The safe injection site will be over there. Seems wildly implausible that any Radnor Township board would ever actually do that for the exact reasons, Mr. Riccuti, that you suggested. We don't need safe injection sites in Radnor. They don't serve a need that we need to have filled here in Radnor Township. They may be excellent vehicles elsewhere to solve specific discrete problems, but they would be inappropriate here. The only reason that we're hearing about them now is because you want to score some cheap points, which is just a waste of everyone's time. You don't understand the process or what you're talking about, and it's very disappointing to hear you try and score cheap points on the back of people who actually probably need help elsewhere. This is a conversation that will end up being deleterious to the health of people and communities who need that help when it has nothing to do with what's going on here. So I guess I don't have a motion or anything. I object to this conversation.
Okay, let me just respond to that. If you're driving, and we have a policeman here, and I asked Superintendent Flanagan, and you get caught with medical marijuana is still illegal. So our police don't police the fact that THC, not Delta 8, is still illegal. You may be able to get it legally, and it's that gray area. I want to make it crystal clear that there is not a gray area. So I resent the fact that you say I'm trying to score cheap points when I'm trying to keep the stuff out of my neighborhood, out of our community, and away from my kids. I truly, truly resent that very much.
Medical marijuana is not injected. Medical marijuana is not the subject of safe injection sites.
You're talking about the police. You're talking about the police.
Please do not interrupt me. You go ballistic when people interrupt
well, that's,
you.
No, you went ballistic. You remember with the whole, do you remember the whole gavel? You remember the whole gavel when you went nuts?
Sean.
Jack, please. Jack, you have the mic.
There's no gavel this
Sean.
time. There's no gavel.
Sean, please. Jack has the mic. You're next.
The reason that you were bringing this up is because you are unhappy that you didn't get what you wanted on the medical marijuana issue 2 years ago, and now that other people are getting the Kratom store taken care of, now you want to have us all relitigate it.
Nope.
The fact that you don't understand how it works is clear. I guess I don't have anything else to say. I'll be
Sean, one last word from you.
I'm good. I just resent the fact that you think I'm making a political statement. I care about my kids. I want to keep this out of my neighborhood. And to your point, the police don't police THC. They do not, okay? It is illegal federally. Okay? It is illegal federally. No, hold on. Yeah, there you go. So it's illegal federally. They don't even have, you can't even use a credit card in a medical marijuana facility because the banking systems don't take it. Yes.
Can I just...
Solicitor, can you speak?
Just to comment about, I did a little research on the safe injection site litigation in the city of Philadelphia. And there was a court case, it's called Commonwealth, or it's called U.S. Versus Safe House, 2021, that went up to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. And that court decision basically shut down the city of Philadelphia's efforts for a safe injection site. And what the court said, though the opioid crisis may call for innovative solutions, local innovations may not break federal law. So for a safe house to come into Radnor, they'd be breaking federal law. They would be arrested by the Radnor Police Department. I know the city of Philadelphia and the U.S. Attorney have been butting heads over this, but that's the city of Philadelphia. And some of the other cities have these sites, but the federal government in this court case, which is the law as of last year, said they're illegal. So for the township to do legislation would be sort of like the township outlawing, assault and battery. It's a crime now. I don't know that we can do any better than that.
But John, so is THC. And if you had a medical marijuana store here, that is illegal. THC federally is illegal. THC, not Delta 8. Delta 8 is now legal because of the Farm Bill. THC is illegal. And if you get pulled over and you have a green card, you're not going to get arrested. So there's no set standard. That's my point. And I don't know why this board is so scared to shore something up and to make it crystal clear that we don't want this stuff in our neighborhood and we don't want the activity in our neighborhood. That's my point. So that's my motion, is to direct staff to come up with some kind of ban, either a zoning ban or a resolution, and go from there. So
this
if I get
is not on as a motion for a vote?
Well, it's
on
for
discussion and direction?
Fine, direction. Then I would like direction.
I appreciate that you would. I'm not yet feeling it from the rest of the board. I don't have any appetite to direct staff or solicitor to prepare anything necessary to talk to us about injection sites, which are not legal under federal law and would never be, there's just never going to be a situation where a safe injection site would get approval of our township. And this is not the kind of community that is targeted for the need for something like this. So I don't have the appetite for it.
Okay.
I'm hearing Commissioner Larkin doesn't. I will get the pulse for the rest of the board and see what they think.
I think that, we said we don't want our kids around it. Well, the Third Circuit said the same thing. So, I don't see how we could enact anything that is stronger than what currently exists as illegal under federal law.
And state law.
Marijuana is illegal under state law, federal law.
Does anybody else want to comment? Okay, moving on to the next item, which is discussion and direction to staff to draft a responsible contracting ordinance for Board of Commissioners consideration. Lisa, this is yours?
Sure, yeah, so I am glad to. So I think that we heard earlier why, the advantages to this. Many municipalities right now, and including so the county already has one, many municipalities have enacted them. I think the county is actually revamping theirs to update it. But we see a lot of work, a lot of work that comes through here. I know our staff does a really good job of vetting. We have prevailing wage. We have certain things that we have to already abide by when it comes to the contracting. But I think adding another tool to the toolbox for our staff when it comes to being able to make sure that we are working with, the best of the best, I think is worthy of consideration. As was mentioned, when you have a responsible contracting ordinance, you have to be assured that, and again, some of these things our staff already does and vets, but there are things that I think maybe we could add. So definitely fully licensed and bonded, have no wage or hour violations for the past consecutive 3 years. Have OSHA training, so I think that's very important. We've certainly seen that. And as someone who's, my grandfather died in a construction accident. He was a plumber, so I think that that's important as well. Participate in management training, pay prevailing wage, which we already know, and offer health insurance, provide benefits for employment to their workforce, including Social Security and workers' comp and unemployment, comply with other federal and state regulations, and have no history of violating policies in other public contracts. And I think that we also heard of different instances where, work that is not up to par ends up coming back to haunt municipalities, and it can end up costing more in the long run. I think the other thing to consider is, we've seen a lot of change orders and things like that. So, are those things that could be prevented if we have something like this in place, and we know, and contractors know that we have certain high expectations for the work. So I'm just seeking the consensus of the board to ask our solicitor to prepare something that we could then, I think, have a more robust discussion around. So that's where I stand.
Thank you for that. Is there any discussion from members of the board? How do we feel about responsible contracting ordinance?
I'd plan to support this. In addition to the fact that I just in general like the quality of the work that I think that we've been promised, and that I frankly see from the organizations that have responsible contracting ordinances or private organizations that just engage in the same principles. I'll say that one of the things that really frustrate me, largely because of the expense to the township, but also because of the waste of time, frankly, is we keep getting cost overruns in the projects that we end up seeing. There's always change orders, there's always issues, and it's always something that's completely understandable. But one of the things that I have noticed in organizations that have responsible contracting ordinances is that you are more likely, there's no guarantee, there's always the possibility of change, but you are more likely to get a initial bid that incorporates all of the work that is going to have to be done. And some of that is because these are guys who have greater experience and expertise all the way up and down the chain, I imagine. And some of that, I'm sure, is because there are, in at least a few instances, bad actors who are making intentional low bids. Again, sometimes very far down the chain from us. But they know full well that they're going to have to come back and up the bid later on. So I would love to avoid that going forward, and I think that this is an excellent mechanism to do so.
Other comments?
I have a question. Is this for individuals, or this is for any kind of township project? Is this for individual? No, just for the township? Okay.
Having heard, I've seen a sample ordinance, having heard from some folks about the benefits that they've seen in municipalities that have it. I would like to see more, so I'm gonna probably voice my support to direct staff to draft something so that we can see it in more detail. If I'm seeing a nod from a couple commissioners, so I'm gonna say to the township manager that we are asking you to pursue this. And Commissioner Borowski is going to work with you on it. Okay. That concludes our business agenda. We're moving forward to the reports of board liaisons. I will kick this one off as a liaison to the Environmental Advisory Council. They held a public hearing last Thursday, the 24th, I believe, of March, on the plastic bag ordinance. It was at the regular meeting of the EAC, and there was a draft ordinance presented that is available for, that meeting's available for review on the Township YouTube channel. I recommend taking a look. There was community engagement, I'd say heavily leaning toward members of the community in support of the ban for single-use plastic bags. I think there is more, I think there's a little bit more to do in order to make sure that we have in front of, when it comes in front of the Board of Commissioners, that it's ready for a vote. So I know that the EAC has plans to send a letter to the business community so that they are aware of it and can provide their feedback. Stay tuned for next steps on that. But we are among several area jurisdictions who are taking a look at this now. The state law prohibiting municipalities from acting in this way has sunset. It's over, and so you'll see them happening. And I know that there's Tredeference taking a look at it and others in the surrounding area. That is why you're going to see some of these coming up now, is that we are no longer precluded from doing so by a state law. So I think it's an exciting move forward, and stay tuned for more.
Can I just ask a quick question? I got a comment about that from a resident. Should I forward that to the chair of the EAC, or do you want it, or what?
Sure.
Okay.
So you can, either one. Yeah.
Okay.
You can send it to me, and I'll make sure it gets to the right place.
Okay, thanks.
Or the chair, Margie Reinhold, as well.
Okay, great, thanks.
Anyone else have a report from a committee?
Yeah, I'll just be brief. Spring is here, so we have the second annual from Parks and Rec. We have the second annual Teen Flashlight. That's going to be Friday, April 1st. The rain date's the 2nd. And also Radnor Summer Camp. So if you or your kid wants to do something fun, consider Radnor Summer Camp. And if you have a teenager that needs a job, they are hiring, I believe. Also, Little League is back out. We had our first Little League game or Little League practice, as well as there's lacrosse. There's a lot of great, there's soccer shots. There's a lot of wonderful events and activities for the children that use our parks. So if you have any questions, reach out to me, reach out to Tammy. Just Google Radnor and whatever sport you want, and hopefully you'll find an athletic league that can have your child be active and about. If not, feel free to use the different trails that we have and take a nature walk, because it's a beautiful time of year. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Anyone else want to?
So I'll just report this. So the Shade Tree has an event coming up on Saturday, April 23rd. They are going to be planting 30 large canopy trees in a couple spots around the township. So the Willows, the Radnor Trail, Odoricio, and Clem Macrone. These are the trees, the bare root trees that we get from the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. So they are free trees, and we are working with, there are 30 DaVita employee volunteers that are coming to the township to help Ricky and the public works staff to plant the trees. So it is exciting that we're going to get so many trees in one day, and people are volunteering their time to participate in that. They're going to have a little kind of opening ceremony on the 23rd at 9 o'clock at the Willows, if anyone wants to come out. The rain date is the 24th, but if you see people around on those days planting trees, that's what they're doing. And also, just to alert the board, I know that the Shade Tree has made some edits to the revisions to the Shade Tree ordinance that I believe Mr. Rice is putting together for us to consider. So probably in April, we will have some revisions to the ordinance to consider. That's it.
Others? Okay, moving on to new business. Anyone have new business?
Yeah, I have just one thing. It's not new business, but I just kind of want to make mention of something. As many of you know, that two state troopers tragically lost their lives in the line of duty last week. And I want to say thank you to all of our policemen, first responders, as well as our public works. We had two terrible incidents in Wayne last week as well. One at the Wawa, one at the bank next to the Wawa. And the police were first on scene, as well as our first responders. Thank you for that. And I know that our public works also was involved in an assist. And that's I just, nothing more than my heartfelt gratitude and thanks, because it's not an easy job. It's a job that we, sitting up here at homes, oftentimes take for granted. So I really wanted to make mention of that and say thank you to those people that keep us safe and make our township work. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. Anyone else have new business? Is there any old business?
Madam President, if I could, just real quickly, just one follow-up on, I had communicated with the board about a month ago regarding some issues that were raised with some of the sub-boards and commissions regarding agendas and how they were posted on the website, as well as some of those meetings. Just wanted to follow up quickly. We had some issues just in some nuances with the new website where agendas were posted. They weren't easily found. Hopefully we've made some corrections there that make it a little easier. We had some meetings where Zoom links were, they were not on the calendar event. They were in the agenda. So again, something that wasn't immediately obvious and easy to find. We've corrected that and added any Zoom meetings, the link will be provided in the calendar right on the website. A couple of the subcommittees held some meetings, or a meeting that was not advertised without agendas, and then some use of consent agenda and one of the other subcommittees. Again, these are things that were brought to our attention, none of which do we believe are being done nefariously. I think it's just the subcommittee working as fast and as hard as they can to address the issues that they've been asked to work on, all in good faith. But just in case the questions come up to any commissioners, we've talked with staff liaisons to try to, raise a hand if they see anything that if public comments being missed or if people are talking without microphones, some of those items, to mention them when they come up in the meetings. We've also talked with the solicitor's office. They're going to start scheduling, having one of the attorneys attend the subcommittee meetings and provide a little Robert's Rules training to each of the boards and commissions, which makes sense to do periodically anyway with the turnover. We have new chairs, new members on a regular basis, so some training on that front seems to make sense. And then the last thing with regard to this is just, if you're in attendance at the meeting and you see something, that would be a good time to mention it too. And that's always the fastest way to correct an issue versus, a post-meeting communication. So wanted to follow up with the board on a couple of those issues. If you have any questions or if you hear anything, let me know. Again, the website and making some of those improvements that's an ongoing thing. And then just regular communication with the sub-boards chairs, making sure that we're, checking all those boxes as well. So, thank you.
Bill. I would add to that the commissioners have some responsibility as well. It's why we've assigned ourselves as liaisons. So, work with your chair, work with your members of your committee and board. These are volunteers. These are community members who are taking their time out of their lives to serve their community, and in no way do I want people to feel that they, did something wrong or broke the rules or, in any way feel that we do not respect and regard them highly. So I guess this is just my public thank you to all of those who serve. You don't have to. You step up. You serve wholeheartedly, and we are so grateful for all of our commissions, committees, boards, councils. So thank you. I will, if there's no other old business, I'll move to public participation.
You want to say one thing?
Come on up.
Hi, I'm Steve Bass. I was here before. I shared with you my background as a pharmacist and a PhD in pharmacology, toxicology. I got involved with this whole CBD Kratom thing about a month ago, and I had never heard of it before. So somehow I got involved in the committee. They caught me afterwards. I got involved in the committee with about 7 or 8 people, and you've seen my emails going back and forth, and they've been rather fascinating. I took on the responsibility to visit the CBD Kratom store in Media. As we progress through this, I think it's worthwhile for you, if you have the opportunity, your representative, if you have the opportunity, to visit the store. I spent about 20 minutes in the store, and I met some of the individuals who were selling it. One of them was this beautiful bathrobe he was wearing, all different colors in red, representing sleep, because this stuff is really great for sleep. He explained to me the different types of kratom and different strengths. You have the red and the green, and also the Delta 8 and the different strengths of Delta 8. I swear to you, by the time I was done with 20 minutes with this representative, who thought he was moving into the store down here in about 2 weeks, I was ready to buy it and try it. It's a frightening experience. We're going through this, it's an abstract thing for a lot of us because we've never used this. But when you see the reality of the way they're pushing this, the way they're selling this, the training of the salespeople, you are really convinced this will do anything. It works for headaches, it worked, my head was hurting, my back was hurting me. I was ready to buy it all. But fortunately, I have the medical experience to know this and the background, and I've done the research to realize how bad this stuff is. So again, I would advise you and share with you that if you have the opportunity, visit the store in media. They'll be glad to spend 20, 25 minutes with you, or 10 minutes with you, and see how it's being presented. The danger of this is you take the 20 and 30 years old, 40-year-old people that go in there, who are then explaining it to their friends who are 15 and 13 and 18 and 19, and selling it the same way to them as they try to sell it to me. And that's why I think it's getting a lot of use too. So they are very professional, but the one thing they never mentioned were the side effects of this product, which is what we call in the medical profession fair balance. So they really didn't give fair balance to the product. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you. I've been debating all night whether I come up and do that, so I thought I'd take the opportunity at the end, because I really would like you guys, if you have the opportunity, to go up, visit the store, and see the way this is being promoted. It may be very helpful to you if they start coming after you in a suit, because at least you'll know the way it's being shared with their customers. Anyway, if I any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Thanks, Anne Marie. Bye-bye now. It's freezing in here, by the way. Did they turn the heat off?
It is cold. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm over here trying to warm up. Hi,
Sarah Pilling, 29 Garrett Avenues. No, I don't, well, perhaps we do, but I don't think injection sites are necessarily what Radnor needs. I just want to be really clear. CBD is not oil, is not a narcotic. It is THC. It cannot be more than 3% of the effect of marijuana. I have taken CBD oil. It helped me live with my back. You can buy CBD oil at Mom's. You can buy it at CVS. You can buy it at many gas stations. So please be very clear. It is not marijuana, although it comes from the same plant. It does not come from the same field, and one of the difficulties is keeping fields of what's going to become CBD oil and what's going to become pot far enough apart that you don't get cross germination, because then you can't do it. But CBD is not a narcotic. It is being studied by Rothman orthopedists, because what they are discovering is that you can give someone who has terrible back pain, for instance, CBD oil, and you'll get the same effect of it without giving them oxycodone or any of the opiates. It's a great low-grade painkiller, but it's not a narcotic. And that's sort of legalistic, but I think it's really important to understand the difference.
It's 0.3, and cannabis plant is different than a marijuana plant.
No, it is not. They are the same plant.
Thank you.
We can look it up. I mean, it's clearly stated what cannabis is.
If you're not at the mic, it's hard for us to hear you, so. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to.
I don't want to get too caught up.
You can strike my last comment. It's fine.
We're okay. Thank you, though. Appreciate you sticking around. I am looking for a motion to adjourn. I got one. Do I have a second? Yes. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.